right, let's move into topic 3, which is the primary application and how I prepared for my primary application. Starting with an overview on what's included in the primary. So, beyond filling in background information and linking transcripts to your application, the largest portion of writing comes from your personal statement, which we're going to talk about more in depth in this presentation. But this is the most important part of your primary application, and it should truly describe you and your interest for medicine. It's around a page and a half of text, single space lines, so 5,300 characters max. For Texas schools, the personal statement is even less characters, so every character counts. The next portion is going to be your experiences, totaling up to 15. Of the 15, 3 will be indicated as your most meaningful experiences, and you're going to have about 1,325 extra characters to speak on it. Lastly, there is an optional essay to discuss unique adversity or circumstances that you have faced that was not addressed anywhere else in the application. With that said, I also want to note that TMDS-AS, there's shorter lengths of essays, but there's an additional essay, the personal characteristics essay. They also have that optional unique circumstances essay. All right, so let's dive deeper into the personal statement. The personal statement is pretty short, page and a half, 5,300 characters, but any good personal statement must be extremely concise to make sure that every word counts. As for content, you really must aim to answer 3 questions. One is why medicine? So like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to study it? Are you sure that you're ready to commit to medicine for decades of study, right? And medical schools want to make sure you seem committed and interested from the text. So that's the biggest question here. Next, you should answer, why me? What makes you a good candidate? Why do you stick out from the other 60,000 applicants, that large pool of students? And this is focused on a concept called, and which you've probably heard it before, show, not tell. Don't tell them you're creative, motivated, or determined. Show them. Show them from your experiences and your choices and the things you've gone through in your life. That's going to show them that you're analytical if you're like in a lab or something like that, or determined if you're overcoming an injury and continued pursuing certain pursuits, right? That's going to show a lot more than you just saying the trait. Lastly, impact is important. And what I mean by this is, which side of medicine do you want to impact? What do you want to help with? Who really do you resonate with? And what impact would you like to see in medicine, right? And you want to definitely try to narrow this in. Medicine's really broad. And obviously everyone wants to cure all illnesses or make healthcare free, right? But angling in on a certain population and considering impact can give your personal statement a little bit more nuance and really describe what kind of physician you want to be. And I can use my personal statement as an example for the most part for my why medicine. This revolved around my family surgeries, including my father's battles with cancer, as well as my own surgeries prior to my collegiate career. So I had broken my shin a couple of times and I was able to overcome that. And that goes into the why me. I talked about my process of overcoming surgeries and failed stem cell treatment, and then having success in internships, more on the analytical side. I talked a lot about my year as a captain of the Michigan gymnastics team, so showing my leadership. So I really highlighted leadership through my application. I think that was a strong highlight of my application. And then lastly, for impact, I discussed my volunteering experience with disabled gymnasts and my relationship with my sister who has Rett syndrome and how I wanted to continue empowering the disabled community. So next, you're going to work on your experience list, and your experiences should continue to tell the story of who you are, what your best traits are, and why you want to do medicine. So for your experience list, you definitely want to make some kind of Google Sheets or Excel sheet so you can track all of them and keep your information somewhere. And at max, you can have 15, but I do recommend making a list of even more than 15 if you have those, because you can condense or then decide what is the most helpful for your application. You will also highlight your top 3. So first you start by making your list, right? That's more than 15 or 15 if that's all you have. You rank them. And for each experience, you're going to want to put the name, the type of experience, which I will give you the categories on the next slide, the amount of hours that you partook in that experience. So if it was like a club or a volunteering experience, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000, right? But your most meaningful should be a lot more hours than the others, right? You should then have A description, this is 700 characters max, which is not much at all. Every word counts. So these should strictly be describing what you did in that experience. Then you should also rank them so you know how they contribute towards your application, and your top 3 will be your most meaningful. Now, for your most meaningful experiences, you're going to get additional 1325 characters, which isn't really that much, but enough room to explain why it was so important. And you can also explain through an anecdote. Maybe there was a certain experience that really stuck out to you. Let them know in that 1325 extra characters, and the 700 can really just still consist of the description. Now, you will also be required to have a contact for every experience as well. So here are all the experience categories, and there's a broad range of categories. So don't feel like you have to have every single category in here. You can have your application dominate a sector of one of these. Maybe you have a lot of community service, right? You can have that dominate your application, but you want some variety, right? Variety is great. It really shows that you're a holistic applicant with a wide range of sectors that you could contribute to for the school. Now, an important factor that should be performed before you apply for medical school is making a school list. So you should make a school list as early as possible, and don't limit your first runs at a school list. But keep in mind, when you're actually applying, each are going to cost money and they're going to require secondary application work. So you should include factors such as location, prestige, MCAT, cost, all those kind of things. Casper preview, right? You need to make sure that you're meeting all the school's requirements, and this will help lower down the amount of schools that you apply to and then find which ones are the best match for you. This is really going to help once you're heading into, the secondary application phase, so you know which schools to prioritize, and you're going to keep this list for that time when you're picking which secondaries you want to get in within the 2 weeks. But you should evaluate what's the most important things for a school for me. Big thing for me was just location. Location was a huge factor into where I applied for school. So this was something that I put right next to the name of the school, really highlighting where they are in the US and then what setting. Is it city? Is it suburban, right? Now, you can get all this information from MSAR on the AAMC website. You can also find it on school web pages, like the individual ones. And you can also use ChatGPT to help make this list, right? Because it can list stuff in grid format. So have a large portion of these schools come from your geographical location or where your house is or where your family is, as you may have stronger chances of acceptance from state schools. And once again, make sure you're checking what tests are required for each of those schools, or you might not receive that secondary.